Featured speaker, please welcome Vaughan.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our flight is about to take off. Please direct your eyes towards the front of the cabin. I'd like to cover a few things. You should be safety belted in your seats. If you need to fasten your safety belt, you take the buckle side with the latch side, you put them together, and you use the rope to release it. There's a couple exits on the aircraft. There's 2 over the wing, there's 2 in the back, there's 2 in the front door. Should we happen in the odd chance that we have a water evacuation, underneath your seat is a inflatable vest that you can take out, you put it over your head, and you pull the red tab. If it doesn't work, then you have the red tube on the side of your vest, and you just blow, and it inflates. Now, there's no smoking on the aircraft, there's no tampering with the smoking detectors, and you have to do everything that the flight crew says. Now, have a nice flight. Wait. Mr. Division Director, fellow Toastmasters, I'm Vaughan Miller, I'm the Deputy Fire Chief, and I want to change the way you look at that briefing. I know that many of us sit in an aircraft and look right down when that briefing occurs. And why do you think I can recite that verbatim? Thank you, it is the same. Thankfully, it is the same. But it's also very important. Now, if I were to reintroduce that same briefing with a little factual information, such as, in aircraft crashes in the United States, and worldwide actually, it is statistically improbable for you to exit this aircraft successfully if you are seated more than 3 rows from the exit, unless you obey these instructions. Do you think that would cause people to pay attention? Correct. That's from a book called Deep Survival, and it's something I studied because I guess improbability is my profession. And I look to see why people survive and why people don't. And it turns out that there is a definite amount of theories on why people survive major events and why people don't. And as I tell it to you, I think it will resonate with you. There's about 1/3 of the people who are in catastrophic accidents that are just going to perish, and there's nothing they can do about it. And another 1/3 or so of people who are in catastrophic events that freeze and don't do anything. And then there's the middle 1/3 that if they could do something to save themselves, they might survive. And that is the 1/3 that I'm interested in, of course, and that is why I mentioned the aircraft safety briefing to you, because it's a cue on what you can do if you happen to be in that 1/3. And that should be very important to you. And why I bring this whole topic up in terms of the Thomas fires, because I think we experienced definitely a catastrophic wildfire that is the largest on record in California. And I would tell you, in my history as 35 years in the fire service, it's definitely 3 times bigger than the largest fire that I've experienced in my career. It was something size-wise that we didn't anticipate. It surprised even the professionals that live and work here. However, there are many things going on out in the world today that are happening, and I think that what we need to do is recognize them as they occur, and that's the important part. Santa Rosa was a recent catastrophic fire, but this is not. These just didn't pop up this year. We've had a drought. We were rescued from the drought by a Pineapple Express that hit Northern California and flooded Lake Oroville so bad that the spillway got wrecked. But Southern California remained in a drought state. We're still in that drought state today. We still have fuels that are incredibly stressed. We still have weather that is created by a warm pool of ocean that is, really waiting to blow on us. So I think that if we recognize the changes that are subtly occurring out there, I think that we need to recognize the systems that are built to protect us. In the Thomas Fire, when it occurred, there was a system already in place to deal with that. We have fires every year here. We have, thankfully in this county, we have many organizations that are really built to protect us. As a matter of fact, weeks, months, years before the Thomas Fire, we engage in training our firefighters so that they're able to handle larger and larger incidents as their abilities grow, just like a Toastmaster can handle a bigger and bigger speech with different sets of skills. We expose them as they can take it to different roles within an incident management organization and make sure that their vision, their capabilities, their delegation, thanks to Wayne's wife, are all able to be in a ready state when we have a major incident, when we have an incident that they're assigned to. So the Thomas Fire occurred, but planning and execution started much before that, as I'll allude to a little planning that's going on right now for our rains that are coming up this week. Before the wind started blowing, we measure our fuels every day. Every day of the fire season, we measure our fuels to see how dry they are. Every day, the Weather Service takes the weather and we communicate back and forth on how our weather's doing for us. We have an Office of Emergency Services that is really housed right over here, a building away from us, that coordinates all our public safety agencies, the sheriff, public works, all the cities together. And so when we get to a point where we're on a higher state of alert, we kick in a series of conference calls and meetings to recognize that the event is potentially coming. We staff up if we feel we need to, extra resources. We, actually the day of the Thomas Fire, we had a conference call at 9 a.m. with all the cities, talking to them about the potential for wildfire in the area, what to do, how evacuations were going to go if that occurred, and that's what we do all the time. And that's through the leadership of our sheriff, our fire chief, our county CEO, and all the city mayors that are out there. They demand that of us and they expect that of us. So when the Thomas Fire occurred, and unfortunately, if you're a firefighter here, it occurred in the worst place because it occurred when the Santa Ana was blowing at its hardest, and it occurred on the east side of a very grassy fuel bed. And so it took off out of Santa Paula and then ran towards Ventura, and I'm sure, I don't know if any of you were evacuated? Yes. We got to you as early as we can. We estimated, it surprised us with the speed that it was moving, but we have plans to get, in our major plans when we have a fire like that is just get people out of the way. So we enacted our reverse 911 system, which is our VC Notify system, which allows us to call everybody on an elected device, either a cell phone or your home phone, to get you out of the way. And we were off to the races. Then, about 10 p.m. that night, the power went out and really made things complex for us and everybody else that was in the area. But we are prepared for that. We have generators and systems in our emergency facilities and our evacuation areas that we can start up and support the effort. Now, the whole system that manages fires like this, it's huge. And as you see, watch the news, as Wayne alluded to, we enact that all the time, all across the state. Very often, all summer, we travel up north to do the same thing for communities like Santa Rosa, and then when we have a fire, they come south to help us. And it's a system of trading. It's a system built to compensate so that no government agency experiences a loss, and the community gets the maximum benefit of all the fire trucks that we can muster when you need them, and not have to staff that full time, all the time, because we couldn't. The reality was that we evacuated 27,000 people the night of the Thomas Fire, 8,000 or so residents. We did ultimately lose in the counties of Santa Barbara and Ventura 1,300 structures. But thankfully, we only lost 2 lives. We could have lost much more, and that was a real victory in the Thomas Fire. A very low loss of life, which was fantastic. there are definitely communities and people that are impacted. I have evacuees in my house today that are still out trying to get back in their house. I'm sure maybe a few of you in this room are. And I think what I wanted to get to with this whole tale of readiness and preparedness and be ready to act is because not everybody is going to be sitting in that third of the population that could save themselves from a disaster. But there are times when we can take an opportunity to act in either to support our own families, our own communities, and I think the time is definitely now for us as a community here to act and pick up our citizens so that they can recover, our communities can recover. And what are some of those cues? What is the need of our community today, this day? Who's been aware of the retail request in downtown, the merchants in Ventura? Correct. They were devastated by this fire. There are definitely people that are out that can't work or have to work in limited capacity at home. We can change our behavior to help them a little bit, right? We can choose to sit a little closer to the exit, or we can choose not to buy Amazon, right? We can choose that, and that might help our community a little bit. We can take what we do as Toastmasters and talk about the preparedness measures that we can take. We can talk about participating in your community. There's all kinds of things that we can do as individuals to help us. But we have to want to. We have to decide to do it. And as was such a great speech this morning, don't be sorry. Just give me the first thing.
No, I misunderstood.
The purpose, right? We've got to have purpose. And then what comes after that? Ambition. We've got to have the ambition. What better ambition to make our communities grow back, right? Confidence. What comes after confidence? Effort. Right? So we've got to decide to do something just a little bit different to help our community members and continue the fight against probably what Wayne was talking about at the very early, what was it? Documented change in people, DCPs, right? Documented change in behavior. We've got a community, we've got a community that is changing, for sure. We've got an environment that is changing. Read the cues. Listen to the briefing on the aircraft. Read into what is happening in our community and make a decision to be in that third that is going to be in the survival third, so that we can get past purpose, ambition, confidence, effort, to resilience. Resilience, because we love it here. Yes.